Okay, we are good to go. Good morning, everybody. We are just so blessed today to have the very regal Saj Hussain joining us. Saj is somebody that I've known for about I was sacked in 2009. 2021. So I've probably known Saj plus kind of 10 years, really, something like that. Um, and I mean, what a great guy. We've invited Saj to speak with us here today because he is just incredibly warm, considerate, patient. He listens really well. He's a dad on purpose. He's married to an amazing woman called Sadie. Sadie, that's right, isn't it, Saj?
Yes.
And he's got 4 children. Yes, I think if you've got 4 children, you're taking life very seriously. Um, and I guess that can be chaos or it can be beautiful, and we'll find out throughout the course of this interview what that's really like. Saj lives in the Midlands, and I'll be putting his address and postcode in the notes of this podcast. Just to give a bit of a background about Saj before we let him say hello, he's a property entrepreneur and is also known as the property joint venture expert. And for those of you that are not familiar with property, you might be familiar with an entrepreneur in business, but Saj is a property entrepreneur in that he has found numerous creative strategies and methods of making money from property, making property profit through various different means and methods. So we might have some time to go into some of that, but it's a pretty big deal actually. You're dealing with pretty big numbers. You're dealing with lots of people, and you just have to have a bit of a backbone. And how Saj has built his multi-million-pound property portfolio is something that we're going to go into today. So for me, it would be very, because we're going to have a whole range of different people at different stages in their lives listening into this. This isn't an opportunity to compare. Look where Saj is when Saj is 29 now. Look where Saj is at 29, and look where I should be at this point in time. Here's someone who is tuned into what they're passionate about, tuned into something that they really enjoy, tuned into something that they can apply a skill set that they have to make something work really, really well. Now, we're also going to be digging into some of Saj's mistakes because that makes him human, and he does bleed, apparently. His wife assures us that he does. And so it's not so much a comparison of where should I be, it's hey, in this interview, you're going to be able to take away just one thing that perhaps you could incorporate into your life and you could do differently. It doesn't need to be, I have to be more like Saj. It's just, what one thing can I take away and do differently? That's made this time of you listening value. And that's what Saj and I both hope for you. So yes, Saj is very passionate about using his knowledge and experience to help others to create wealth through property. He's always invited to speak at speaking opportunities like this, and teaching people how to create profit from property and using other people's money. So lots of people believe that Saj was just sat around one day in his house made of cash and he just decided to use it differently than making another armchair. He didn't have access to that kind of resource. Personally, he had some, I'm sure he'll share with us, but how to use other people's money to scale up what he wanted to do and what he wanted to create. So I think it's Tony Robbins always says it's never a case of resources, it's always a case of resourcefulness. There's always a way to solve a problem. It might not just, it requires a different level of thinking than perhaps what you have had thus far. He's a very big believer in collaborating with investors and other people to build successful joint ventures. And that's certainly how I remember him. He's very relational as a human being, despite the big numbers he's dealing with. And that's really what I wanted to amplify and bring out of Saj today. How does he build, grow, maintain a successful business, a successful property portfolio with lots of customers, and have a marriage that you can call a marriage, and be a dad as well, be a hands-on, be a dad on purpose. How does he actually do that? So Saj, just going to give you a second to say hi. I haven't given you a moment yet.
That's okay, Ben. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's an absolute pleasure. I was just thinking about some of the things that you just said. You just mentioned that phrase, the Tony Robbins one, and I actually remember the time that you flashed that up on the screen on a presentation, and it really sunk in my mind. I said, it absolutely is. This isn't a lack of resources, a lack of resourcefulness. And I just, as you were saying it, I just visualized you doing that presentation. I saw that.
Yes. Oh, and what's beautiful about one-liners like that, they're so small, tight, and quaint, but aren't they the growth material? You just hear something like that. All right, it would have been in a context, because there would have been a bigger presentation, but it was just bam, and that one line is just, yeah, how am I showing up in accordance with that principle? So important things that help us grow are never complicated, Saj, are they?
This is true. Yeah, it's true. It's just about being open to them. An open mindset, I think, has certainly been a key part of my life and my journey. Just being
Perfect.
open, willing to listen and understand, and think, okay, how can I benefit from this?
How can I listen and benefit from this? What a beautiful question. So what's really important to me in my life is just to have I always take time to meditate each day. You can forward the podcast if you wish, but Saj and I have agreed we're just going to take a conscious minute to stop. We're both busy guys. You listeners are busy guys, and it's so easy to become a walking, talking to-do list. And in my experience, it doesn't matter how much stuff you get ticked off, it almost never leads to more happiness. In fact, being present with what you're doing and being intentional and on purpose with what you're doing is what creates more gratitude and a happier life. So we're just going to have an intentional minute to encourage you guys to do the same, not rush through this podcast. Just stop what you're doing. Just put it down, put your phone down, stop the car, pull over, and just breathe for a moment. Okay. So can't encourage you enough to do this. So just a moment, and we'll drop into that silent time right now. Okay, great, really great. So, Saj, good morning to you again. Can you take us through how you start each day, Saj? What is there like a morning ritual that you swear by? Is it just drag yourself out of bed as soon as you can? Can you just tell us a little bit about that if you have one?
Yes, I'm a very simplistic person from that point of view. I am routine driven to an extent. Also somebody that likes change. So after a while, my routines become a bit monotonous, and I like to change them up a bit. So, for instance, there'll be parts of the year I'll get up very early in the year. Like during the summer, I'll get up very, very early. 4 or 5 o'clock sometimes even. And as within the colder days, I tend not to get up as early, but still early-ish, 6:30, something like that, 6 o'clock. I'll be up. And so I'll start the day nice and early. One of the reasons I like to start the day early is that I have time to myself before there's demands being made from me in terms of you need to do this, this needs to happen, that person needs to speak to you. So before all that happens, I have some time for me, and I pray first thing in the morning when I'm up, and I like to just freshen up and have a very light breakfast, and I'm ready to go.
Great,
I'm ready to
great.
go.
And your prayer time, Saj, is that always clock time, or is that just the first thing you introduce to your day? How do you go about that?
So prayer time, being a Muslim, I aim to pray 5 times a day, and the first prayer is at the just before sunrise. So it depends on the time of the year. So generally, another reason why I prefer to go early in the summer, it means I can get my prayer and not miss it. I generally don't feel great if I start the day and I miss the prayer, because once the sun is up, you've effectively missed that opportunity to pray. You still pray, but it's not, you've missed that opportunity, which never really feels great. So that also encourages me to get up early. And there's occasions I'll burn the candle at both ends. I'll sleep late, I'll get up early, and that never feels great as well. But I try and start fresh. I'm most focused early in the morning, and most productive early in the morning as well.
It's just so refreshing to hear that. We've got an 8, a 5, an 8, a 6, and a just 3-year-old this weekend, and the 3-year-old just hasn't slept since we've had her. Kerry and I have been asking, what have we done wrong in a past life, or even this one? So we've had 0 sleep in the last 3 years.
I feel for you.
And so I left Kerry in bed this morning, and I got up with all the kids, and just the sheer volume of questions and demands to just give my attention and focus, which should happen actually. I've chosen to bring all 3 of them here, and be under no illusion, kids require a huge amount of love and attention. Permanently on full tilt. And so how I love to start my day, first thing, meditation and prayer. I love to start my day that way, and it seems to just, even if I haven't got time, it seems to make more time. I don't know, if I don't pray and meditate, it seems that time is reduced and feels so limited. If I can pray and meditate, it feels like things almost slow down and I get more time to respond. Didn't get that choice today. But it just comes with it, right? Comes with it. What age are your children, Saj?
Oh, well, we say children, but actually they're 3 of my adults.
Right.
So my youngest one, I have to do that thing now, I have to think through the ages. My youngest one, she's 12. Then the next one is 19, and then 23 and 28. Yeah,
wow.
You have to think about
that. Well, that's the hardest math you're going to do all day, right?
Absolutely.
Wow, so such a broad range of ages. Yeah, and I get you're facing challenges in the same way I'm facing challenges, but you're facing very different challenges with raising and parenting fully grown adults, huh?
Yeah, and I'd like to think they've all had a very similar upbringing, but they're just completely different personalities, and that's just an amazing thing. That you think the environment is very similar, yet they're all completely different in terms of how they are.
Isn't it amazing? Yeah, you just looking back, like, no, we did this pretty much the same, this pretty much the same, but the words tumbling out of your mouth are completely different to the word. It's a wonder, isn't it? It's an absolute wonder. My 3 are so different. It's brilliant. I would say they're all equally as challenging as each other, but their characters are so different.
It keeps us on our toes.
Oh my gosh, it really does. In terms of, just as we're on the topic of family, Saj, before we get into money here, relationship with money, how being busy, having a big business, being asked to do interviews like this so frequently, how do you balance investing, because you're an investor, investing time with Sadie and investing time with the kids? I don't know if any of them have left home yet. How do you do that? Can you just share with us how this works?
So when you asked me to do this, and I thought about this, and I thought, do you really want me as an example for this? I'm thinking, I'm not sure I'm the best person for this, but I'm happy to share my
Thank you. Yes.
what I figured out, what sort of, I was going to say what works, but is kind of working.
Yes.
And
It evolves, right? It always
yeah,
changes and evolves as well. So
yeah. And so Sadie's always worked with me in business. We've always worked for ourselves. She's always been the back office, the accounts person in our business. So we've always worked together. We have had that thing where really you don't ever switch off. You know, you're having dinner, you're asking questions. Oh, did you speak to that person? Did you follow up on this or whatever it might be? So work and non-work just merge into one thing. And then as our kids grew up, I gave them the choice whether they want to come and work with us. And strangely enough, the three older ones work with us.
right. Cool.
So we do spend a lot of time together, but a lot of it is work as well. And I certainly don't think I've got that right. I don't think I've got that balance right. It's just the way it's evolved. And the youngest one, you know, I'm conscious of spending time with her. I actively make an effort. My wife says it as well, that you've made much more of an effort with the youngest than you ever have with the other three as they were growing up. And when I look back and I think she's right, that's because I'm more conscious and aware of it now than I ever was before. Because previously it was the case, the kids are growing up. Yes, the kids are kind of growing up around you, just get on with things, and it's I never really stopped to think about, okay, how am I really helping and contributing to their life and their growth and their development. And I never really thought about it that way. But when we were blessed with our fourth one, you know, by that time I was in a different place, and I certainly have made more of an effort with the youngest. So making time, and you know, because we work from home, we have two offices at home. So I'm in my office, we have another large office in the house where the rest of the family are. So I'm kind of in a different room to the rest of the family. And then we have our main office in the high street where the rest of our staff are. So even though we have a business with about 20 staff, the family work from home and the rest of the team are in our other office. Well, even they're working at home right now. But what that meant was, because the reason I started in this way is I wanted to spend more time with the family. And I thought, you know, I want to work from home. My office is going to be from home. It means even if we're not doing lots of stuff together, we're around each other. And that for me was important. But as it grew, I maintained that and kept that. And even now I've resisted for quite a long time to shift us all into the office on the high street, because I like the idea that actually, you know, they enjoy the work. Yeah, they'll turn up in their pajamas, you know, with their bowl of cornflakes at 10 o'clock at their desk. But that's fine if they're happy doing that, then that's fine. So in a long kind of winded way, our work and non-work life has kind of merged into this thing, and where we don't really distinguish. But we don't have this thing where we can't talk about work at 7 o'clock and stuff. But we're disciplined enough about, we don't talk about it non-stop 24 hours a day, that it's damaging to our relationships.
It's just really interesting to hear that. And what comes up for me is you guys you seem to share this, because you've got three of your kids are members of staff technically, and your wife Sadie does, we call it back office, right? But we should call it front office, shouldn't we, Saj? Because it's so darn important, right?
Absolutely.
Because Kerry does the back office accounts kind of stuff for me, and I don't know why it's called the back office. I guess back in the past it was stuck back in the back, but it should be in the front because it's so important. But the word vision comes up, a shared vision that forms a bond, almost a mesh. I can't quite think of the word, a framework for you guys all to dovetail into. So I asked you, how do you manage that balance? Well, you've just got an interesting story in that you all participate in the same vision, which I'll ask you about what is the kind of bigger vision for your future in a moment. But you all get a chance to participate and be included in that. So I don't know if your youngest is interested, but at this point in life, you're thinking, I've managed to get the wheels turning, and boy, doesn't it take a lot of energy to get the wheels turning on something. It consumes all of you, doesn't it? And I think that's such a risk with us as dads, as you get what you focus on. And I'm speaking with people that have focused on the big vision and just run after it and done something phenomenal in what they've created, and yet their family has been left and would be considered part of the aftermath, right?
Mm.
So that's one, not criticizing that, that's one way to do it. But Sadie was involved. Sadie really is one of the people that can stand at the helm of the ship, and the other guys are involved now. And so how did that come about, Saj? How did you introduce your kids to what you have a passion about? How did that, this all of you guys working together start to form?
Yeah, I guess if I just step back a moment from, or go back to what you just mentioned about just the drive and the family kind of just like hang around the back. First time round, that's really what I did.
Right.
That's how I built the business first time round. When I say first time, this is my second go at business, if you like, property. Previously it was IT, and at that time that's what I did. I just went for it, and the family, yeah, they're just there in the background. Yes, I'm providing for you, aren't I? That's my job, and that was the mentality. And yes, you have things, you have nice things. What more do you want? And it took me a long time to understand what they didn't say, but what they wanted. They said, well, we want you, not nice things. And it took a long time for me to get that.
Yeah, sure.
And this is where then, things shifted a little bit. So when in the property business, so we built this business and I was working from home as our office, and our oldest daughter, Zara, as she left university, I said, well, what do you want to do? And at the time, she was thinking about accounts, and I'd arranged for her to do some work placement at a friend's practice. She did that for a few weeks. She said, Dad, I don't want to do accounts. I said, well, what do you want to do? So I said, oh, what have you, if you want to work with us and stuff. And at that time, it felt like the Asian thing to do. You force your kids into the business. Well, you're going to pass it down the generation. You're going to run with this thing now. And I didn't want it to feel that when I said, look, if you want to do this, that's fine. So it started off being, well, let me do this for a while I decide what to do.
Sure.
So that was how she got involved in business. So she did it for a few months. She helped out quite a bit, and she'd started taking responsibility for certain parts of the business, and that really helped us as well. And she enjoyed doing it. And as she grew in her character as well, in terms of working environment, and she enjoyed it, and it just kind of grew from there. And then my next eldest, Siraj, when he left university, he did finance and accounting, got a first-class degree, also decided he wanted to be an accountant. 5 minutes after being in an accountant's practice, decided he doesn't want to be an accountant. And I'm thinking, that's about 40 grand we just belong sending you to university, deciding you don't want to do account. But it's the process is important, I think. So I'm glad we are where we are, and he went through that. And he's very introverted. So he kind of slotted into a sort of accounting type roles within the business, and he's very relaxed, very easygoing, and probably the least driven out
Right.
of all the kids. Very frugal as well in his approach. So I think it's perfect in the accounts team. So, yeah. So then the next oldest one, Jay, he's a handful. And if I'm being honest, I see a lot of myself in him at that age, which is why I worry so much. I was thinking, no, you don't want to be like your dad was at that age. So he finished college, and he wanted to go to university, not because he wanted to study anything, just because it was going to be a bit of a DOS. And I said, we're not doing that. So we encouraged him to get involved in the business. He's quite creative, but he's probably, if I'm being honest, I think he'll probably achieve the most in life out of all of them, in terms of, when we say achieve, in terms of in business and growth. But he's the most laziest out of all of them as well. So I don't know how that's going to connect to, but because I see certain things in him that I know he's capable, he will find a way to do that. So he helps out in a lot of our text type stuff, social media. He works with people in that side of the business, if you like. but he does move around to wherever we need help. I do work him quite hard at all of them, actually. I'm probably the hardest on him.
That's what I'm hearing here, Saj. You are the driving force of this, right? You're actually at the helm. You've got your whip. No kidding. It's a great story, actually. You know, to include. I think the key word for me here is to include. That's what kids want more than anything. I mean, you've included them in the bigger business here, but you know, even at the age my children are, they love being included in what Kerry and I are doing. It's just, it's sometimes clunky. It takes you more effort. It's more time consuming. They make more mistakes, but it's your job as a parent to love and teach and to guide them to do things better. You know, I've so many people you come across have just let their kids get on with it, and it just, children left to their own devices, that is havoc, is chaos, really. So
sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, go on, Saj. Just
what I was going to say is, you know, within our business, what we look to do is try and find the best people we possibly can for a specific role. And sometimes when I look at the roles I give the kids, I know deep inside me, some of the things they do, they are not the best person for that role.
Right.
I'll overlook those because at the end of the day, it's family. You're trying to help them. You're trying to get them to grow as well. And then you have this internal struggle of, you know, if you were working for me, I would have sacked you ages ago. From that point of view, but I think, how do you sack the kids? I do remind them of that. So, you know, so there is this internal struggle of you're trying to help them, you're trying to get them to grow. And I do say to them regularly, look, you don't have to do this. You are welcome to go and find your own way in life at any time you ever want. All I'm trying to do is give you an easy start in life.
And it's an important lesson. You're not. It's a choice to be here. Keyword choice here. We really want to include you. You don't have to be. You're not here for me. And we do have expectations of how this role should be performed. You're my son as well, just to pick an example. But we do have expectations, and it's perfectly reasonable to have expectations. It's just such a balance, such a challenging balance, establishing expectations and lovingly holding them to account, because there's a consequence, there's a price to be paid in every facet of that expression when someone doesn't deliver on what's being expected of them. So yeah, just hearing this from you, I'm going to put a pause on involving my 3-year-old in my business for now, Saj.
Well, we haven't talked about our youngest. She's the one that thinks she runs the show.
So yeah, of course, she does.
Right? Runs around thinking she's in charge of everything. She calls herself the CEO. So
she's got the badge and everything, right? Time's just running away a bit here with us. I want to get into the topic, a bit more into the topic of money. We're going to focus this podcast on money for at least the first quarter, and just find out about, because money for me in my home was just never talked about. It was never discussed, and I've grown up with this, which I've had to undo. I've had to unlearn this idea that I'm stupid with money. I can't handle it. It's too big for me. Because any question I ever asked my parents about money, it was, I literally can't even remember an answer. There was never sat down and explained, this is how you manage things financially well. So just want to sort of hop onto that topic now, Saj. So can I just ask you the straight question of, what does your personal relationship with money look like? How would you describe that to us?
Now, or in terms of how it started?
Yeah, please. How it started and how it's changed or transformed, if it has. Yes.
Okay. So you know, we grew up in a very modest family. We didn't have very much, that for sure. We definitely had a loving family, but we didn't have very much. Right. My father fell ill when I was probably about 9-10 years old. His kidneys stopped working, so he was on dialysis for a very long time. Pretty much all my young life, I can remember him being on dialysis and not being well. So yes, he was there, but he wasn't really able to get out, provide such in that way. And you know, we kind of struggled along through life. And I grew up in the 80s in through secondary school. And at that time, you know, having designer clothes and stuff was all the trend. And, you know, when you didn't have 2 pennies to rub together, it wasn't going to happen. But you don't understand that at that point. So when I was 11, 12, this sort of age, I was really, really frustrated. I couldn't understand why we couldn't have the things that other people had.
Sure.
That's probably where my real drive for money and making money came from. And I couldn't understand why my parents can't provide me this when other kids have got that and this person's got that. And I just didn't get it. And I didn't want to really listen either at that point. But I became very, very hungry to want to have things that we couldn't have. And so it was things driven at that point. And so what I did do is, I was interested in computing. At the time, it was very new. So I got involved with effectively selling computer games at school. So I'd sell computer games. I made a little bit of money, and in the end, that enabled me to build up my computer kit. And by the time I left school, my equipment at home was more valuable than what we had at school. So that's how I got interested in making money. And then I had this interest for IT as well. And later in life, the two got connected. We opened up an IT company after leaving university. But that's where really that drive came from. It's a case I didn't have things in my life. But now, the way I see money is very, very different. It's just it's a tool, and I'm a very spiritual person. I believe that we have plans, but God has bigger plans for us. So I never really overly concerned about what we have or what we haven't. We're just very grateful for whatever we do have. And I see I'm much more excited about the drive in making money than the actual money itself. So the thing at the end doesn't really mean much to me. So to put it in context, I live in a nice house and I drive nice cars. That's about the only thing I spend money on.
Right.
Yeah. I don't spend money on any lavish luxuries as such. Expensive watches, clothes. It just doesn't do it for me, because it's almost a case of I don't want to be driven by materialistic things anymore. It's no longer important.
Yes. And so in terms of the real basics, the fundamental budgeting, the dirty, getting your hands dirty with your money kind of bit, there are going to be a plethora of different people's experience and relationships with money for people listening in here. And believe it or not, it's only really been in the last 2 years, because I've lost so much money. So you probably would believe that budgeting wasn't a feature in our home. But Kerry and I take budgeting very, very seriously now. And the truth of it was, I didn't want to be dictated to by money, which is a hilarious way to look at it. We're really of the thinking now that you have to tell, you're the boss, you're in charge, you tell each pound where to go, because if you don't, it will tell you where it wants to go. And guess where it wants to go? It wants to go on the lavish stuff. It wants to go on the stuff to give you pleasure. It wants to go on sweets, chocolate. This holiday here, going on holiday is fine, but if you don't tell it where to go, if you're not intentional, if you don't have a structure, if you don't have a system to manage your money well, it's just human nature to want to buy things that that please you short term. And so how does that look in your setup for your home, Saj? What does basic fundamental budgeting look like?
So, in my first business, my IT business, which I ran for about 15 years, we made a lot of money during that time. And I felt at a time that pretty much anything I touched would turn to gold. I felt invincible.
Right.
But very quickly, I had a reality check and found that actually I'm not invincible, and I don't know everything there is to know about business. And I did fall badly, flat on my face, and it was very, very painful. That's when I went through the phase of what actually does money mean, what's its significance, and the detachment from money actually started to happen for me. It was still important because it's a tool, but now we started seeing it more as a tool. So then during that phase, when effectively we had very little, again, we started with very little, we built up something quite nice, pretty much lost it all and starting with nothing. And my wife's always been very good at managing money. So she's what we call, she's a saver, I'm a spender. spend it in the sense that, if we see someone want to invest in this, or when we want to buy that investment, we want to get on with that project, get involved in that business. And she said, no, we need to keep some money. She's very good at little nest eggs, borrowing away, or little pots. T. Harv Eker talks about the pots, and she loves that concept about you have little pots for different things. And so she is brilliant at managing money in that way, allocating things for certain things. And the way I've always thought about it is a bucket with holes. My job is I've got to keep putting stuff in that bucket. Yeah. And she looks at it as she wants to plug as many holes as she can in that bucket. And I think, you know what, if we've got a few leaks, it doesn't matter. As long as we're making so much that goes into it, it doesn't matter if there's a few leaks. But she's obsessive about closing all the leaks off.
Isn't that beautiful? Just to hop in there, it's beautiful because that essentially they are the two dimensions of how to look at money. You change what money you have by increasing how much you push in at the top, or you reduce the amount that's falling out at the bottom. So you're the big spender, Sadie's the big saver. I'm going to ask you in a moment, so prepare for the question, what it looks like when you have disagreement about money and how that's handled. It's just a perfect balance. If you can get that balance right, it's great, because you two together as a team probably have an excellent view of what you should and shouldn't do. So completely Saj's view, the entrepreneur's view, is come on, let's make it happen. We don't care, we can get there. We'll find the resources, we'll make it work, right? That is really required from a visionary and a leader. You also need someone in the front office. We're going to say that Sadie's in the front office, aren't we, Saj? Yeah. What we also need is, whoa. I believe in you. I have faith in you. This is going to work. Right now, the step we can only really take is from C to D. That's all we got. I know you want to go to D to J, but we can't. So then you've got potentially a step where you've gone from C to E, which I don't like the word compromise, but I like the idea of team and working together to create something more valuable than what just you or Sadie could create on your own. So how does it look when you guys have a disagreement? Can you talk us through how that looks?
So if people that are listening or watching are familiar with wealth dynamics, profiling, personality profiling, I'm very much the way you describe, very driven, very at the front. This is where we're going. This is what we're doing. And she's very much more stable, grounding. So I'm a creator profile. She's a Lord profile. So complete opposites in terms of how we think about things. She's very, everything's very logical, very black and white. Whereas I'm much more emotion driven.
You're comfortable in the grey area, right, Saj?
Yeah. So most of the time, I'm just thinking about this now, how to kind of explain it. Most of the time, it's her way, she wins.
Sure.
Yeah. Now, I'm still very, very driven, and I'm very influential as well. I'm very persuasive. And she's beginning to realize that we've been married for 30 years now. So she's worked it out now that if I've set my mind to something, you know what, it's going to happen. Yep. I'm just going to persuade everybody that it's my way. So in short, generally speaking, she wins. But if I've set my mind to something, then that's it. We're doing it.
Yeah. And what does she expect from you, Saj, in terms, hey, we've got this new property, I want it. I imagine there's more detail than that. I imagine Sadie requires a financial, not justification, but a financial account of the performance of that asset. So it's not just persuasion in terms of some energy. You're actually putting some I'm making assumptions here. Please tell me, for it to be a constructive persuasion at least, or is it just hold on to my coattails, we're off?
Yeah, so I've got to say, we're very, very blessed that we don't need any more. And she reminds me of that constantly. We don't need any more. We're okay, we're comfortable. And our kids will be probably very comfortable around their lives if they're sensible. However, that for me, the inside for me, that's not enough.
Right.
We're here to make a difference. We have one opportunity at life. We don't know how long we're here for. Every single day matters. Every moment matters, because you never know when's the last. And I want to leave having made a difference, not only to the family, but to the people. So, if I, it reminds me that thing about the, in an airplane, when you're on a flight, the attendant will tell you, if the oxygen mask drops, make sure you put your own on first before you can help anybody else. And that sort of hits me and stuck with me, that if I really want to impact others and help others, I've got to be in a very good position myself to be able to do that. If I have nothing or very little, there isn't a lot to share and help others with. Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm a big believer, whatever we create is going to be left here. When I leave this earth, I'll be leaving with just the body I came blessed with, and that's it. That'll go in the ground, and my soul is gone, and that's it. You're not taking anything with you. It's what have you done whilst you were here.
So I'm going to ask you, what do you really get a kick out of in a moment, Saj? That's going to be one of the questions. And can we just for a second, before we go on to what you perceive to be successful and what drives you, the business failure, just want to get under the skin of that for a few minutes. Not so much the detail of what went wrong, because that's not so much important. The moment you realized it was going wrong, did you fight it? Did you try and prop it up? Did you accept it was going to happen? The emotions and fallout from that, what impacted, probably way too many questions, the impact that had on you and Sadie as a marriage. Can you just, again, we don't exactly know who's listening, but I don't want people to come away thinking I must be a success. What makes people a success is how they handle inevitable failure and learning and mistakes. Failure, yes. Mistakes and learning. I haven't met someone who hasn't had both. It's an and. It's not a here's a straight line. It's my success is built up from all the things I've failed at, to be honest with you, which is really painful. But so can I just give you a chance to respond to that?
Yes. So I see failures as part of life, and every day we have failures. Every week there are failures in what we do. But that was a major failure in our life, in our business life, in our financial life. By that point we bought a nice home, we had nice cars, we'd started going on nice holidays as well, and then it just went just like that. I say it went just like that, but there was a build-up that I wouldn't accept that it was going in that direction.
Great.
And this comes back to the single-mindedness about no, I'm going to get this to work. And even other friends, close friends, business associates would say, well, got to be careful. You're putting a lot of money into a black hole here. You're throwing good money after bad. Are you going to make this work? And we had one asset at that time, the property that we'd by accident made a lot of money from. We bought it, I can't remember the exact numbers, something like about 30,000 pounds, because that was the value of properties at that point. We sold it for 120,000. Effectively, we took all that money and just put it into the business as well. And the reason we sold it, because business needed more cash flow.
Right.
Because we were struggling with certain aspects without going into kind of all the details. One side of the business was doing well, and the other side was doing very badly. The bit that was doing very badly just was sucking up money. And we were putting more money into it to try and get it to turn around and work. And I should have accepted a very long time ago, it's not going to work. And cut your losses. But I didn't accept that. I was just, no, we're going to make this work. And the point I accepted it is when there wasn't a penny left to put back into it to keep it going.
Right.
You see, when it forced upon me that's it, look, you know what, this isn't working, it's too late, it's finished. And then I did go into this state of like, she's never said to me, I told you so. Yeah. But she was supportive, whatever I was doing, but she was always concerned about, is this really the right thing to do? Are you sure this is what we want to do? I'm thinking, no, it'll be fine. Trust me, it'll be fine. Famous last words, eh? And when we lost everything, and I kind of struggled to look her straight in the eye and say, look, it was my fault. It was everything. But she was still very supportive. And she said, we'll find a way. We'll get back on our feet. We'll be all right. We're never going to starve. We'll be okay. Whatever it is, we've got each other. We've got this family. We're blessed. We'll be fine. And that support really helped, because that was a point in my life I felt that, when I look back now, really it was a small breakdown that I went through. Yeah. I didn't want to see anybody. I locked myself away. Just blaming everybody else for everything. But she helped me kind of pull myself out of that. And then as I come out of that, I looked at things in a very different way. Everything was very different. And my relationship for money, and I lost my drive for a while, but it kind of came back when I realized actually this is no longer for me. I've got a family that I need to provide for. That really got me back, if you like, on the saddle, and said, no, I'm going to make this work. Whatever I've got in me, I'm not giving up.
It seems to me two words that come up from that is a feeling of failure and the feeling of shame
Yes.
and they're such brutal feelings. And I've lost a staggering amount of money as well. And they are two emotions I directly relate to, and the recovery of that, and the, I guess, the humiliation of it can lead to the humility of it when you're picking up the pieces of your mistake. When I made a huge mistake, there were some people that insisted, right now, you need to do what I want you to do. And that was really tough. There was no leeway. There was no wriggle room. People had the right to look at it however they wanted. There were other people that were incredibly forgiving and wanted to be considered and thought of as I went about putting it back together, which I had no idea that would happen. I was under the impression that everyone would demand, right now, going to throw you into the bin, going to lock you up, I hate you. But about 80% of the people involved in my losses said, I get it. I'm grateful that you've taken the time to explain. The first time I let people know, I didn't even have a plan. I have no plan. I'm just letting you know I've got no plan because it's the right thing to do. I've been irresponsible in the way I've been looking at all this. It's the second I've got a plan, you'll be literally the first person to know. And there are other people involved, so you're going to be considered with other people. I'm just letting you know that too. I had enough hairs on my chest as it was, but that put some more on. It felt like they were being plucked out, actually. So Sadie had this faith in you, and Kerry had that faith in me too, that said, men tend to, when they feel responsible for that failure, men tend to directly connect with that makes me one. And that makes it such a heavy burden to carry, where our partners were just, that's not who you are. And the beauty of them being able to see who we really are and helping us take those labels off after the mistake is a redemption, isn't it, really, Saj? And necessary, what I'm hearing from your story here, knowing where you've got to now, a really necessary shaping of who you were. Is that a fair summary?
Oh, absolutely, because people say you learn so much on the way down, much more than on the way up, and that is just so true. It changed my perspective on many things, but it also, what it did, it made my my relationship with God much stronger than it was. It was quite weak, if I'm being honest, in the early days. And at the end of the day, we're, as I said, we're on this earth. We don't know how long we're here. The only certainty is that at some point we're leaving. That's it. And it's not in 200 years' time. We know that. So what are we doing whilst we're here? What impact are we making? How are we serving others? How are we helping others? Are we doing the right things? Doing things in a way that not only is going to help and support you, but it's going to make a massive difference to others as well. And that's really what I try to build the business on. So when I started getting involved in property, and within a few years I started working with other people's money, because I've lost a lot of money, even though it wasn't individuals' money previously, it was more institutional money, it was bank money and stuff in the last business. I was really, really scared internally about taking on money from somebody else.
Sure.
I couldn't move forward without some money.
Yes.
I think that fear has helped me stay really focused. I was speaking to an investor just a couple of days ago from in Dubai about investing with me, and I said, look, what you'll get with me is modest to good returns. because I won't take risks with other people's money. I've been doing this a long time. I'd like to still be doing this in many years to come. So if you're looking for outstanding results, then I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to help you, because I'm not going to take risks.
And you know what? When that investor's parting with their money, I imagine they want to hear that, because if they've got that kind of money to invest, they've had all of the people promoting and persuading them of these excellent returns, but modest and safe, just better than the bank, is I believe what people really want to hear. So Saj, we're almost at the end here. If one more question, and then please just give us just a share about how we could help you in any way. For guys out there listening that have just not got a handle on money, they haven't got a Sadie in a front office at the helm and keeping you, just see you like a kite on a string. You've got to lead. Someone has to lead the way, right? So they haven't got that in place right now, and it's just them, and they feel quite alone with their finances, but want to make some progress and want to do things better. What would your one or two pieces of advice be to those men, those dads?
I've thought about this quite a lot in some dark moments, that, what if I ended up in a situation, very little, nothing, and, I thought, right, and I've thought through these scenarios of, right, I'm just going to deliver pizzas in the evening, during the day I'll, stock shelves, whatever it takes, I'm going to do that and we'll be okay. And how's that going to work? How much money is that going to save? The reality is, this whole lifestyle that we have, the culture that we have, is designed to keep us broke. Everything's designed to keep us just wanting more, minions just keep going. We have to break out of that, and the first way to do that is you just got to look at everything that goes out of your wallet, out of your bank account, and think,
everything you spend, where does all the money go, right?
Does it really need to go there? And if it doesn't, you just cull everything, and you just have the bare basics. And when you get used to that, when I say used to, you accept that actually, I don't need, a £70 a month phone, when if I can just pay 30 quid for a phone and 10 quid a month, I'm okay for now until I can afford that. Then what will happen? You start getting more control and understanding of finances. I think we very easily, and it's not our fault, because the marketing and the media are absolutely brilliant at helping us spend our money. We've got to pull back from that and not accept that actually I need to do that as well. This is what I need to sign up for. I need to have this, and that actually look at where's all the money going. Does it really, really need to go there? And it's almost, you take a step back and think, and make a start from beginning and think, I need to pay my rent. I need to put some food on the table. What else do I need to pay? Yeah, and then from there, you kind of rebuild up. And when I went through some difficult times, I was really thinking about this. That actually, there's certain things you have to have. You have to have a roof over your head. You need some clothes. You need some food. And a lot of everything else where our money goes are not necessities. When we can start controlling that, and what happens is then you get more headspace. We're obsessed about money. Our life is driven and focused around money. We're chasing something is just out of our reach, and which is the way society has been created. Most people go to work to earn a salary, not because they love their job. And that salary pays for the roof over their head, puts food on the table and some clothes, and it either leaves them very little or they've overspent every month. And that's, I believe, what we need to snap out of and think, actually, do I need to really be following this same rat race? And I remember that was a phrase I heard from you as well.
It is. Yes. There's one of my favorite men on the planet is a guy called Richard Rohr, and he describes the first and the second half of life. In the second half of life, people are so much more resonate with all of that, what you needed to build up to begin with. You realize you get so much more in tune with and want to be more in tune with, well, what really matters now, which is what you've absolutely touched on here. And you've made reference to definitely the first half of life, Ben. who's just hopefully slightly different to the character that has been forced upon me now. And just so grateful for you touching on those notes, Saj. I wish we had some more time, but that whole you gotta know where your money's going. You know, I was terrified to do that because I didn't really want to know. I didn't want to know. I was wanted to be in denial is the word, and play the card of, oh, it's everything's against me. You know, I got to keep up with this person, that person. This is what people expect of me. If you want to make a difference in your life, you have to make a choice to say, well, where's all the money bloody go? I have to know. And I get couples come and sit in front of me here, or even online or whatever, and most of them don't know how much they spent last month to the nearest £400. So how much do you earn is a very common irritating question that people might ask at a dinner party or a networking event. How much did you spend last month? And do you know that number to the nearest 400? £400 a lot of money. Most of them say no. They could say within £1,000, but within. So to know exactly where it goes, how can you possibly make better choices and be more in control of your money if you don't know what's happening to it?
Yes.
That's what I'm hearing from you, Saj. And another part you mentioned there was you got to go to work, dude. However you say it, you got to go to work.
But Ben, you know, just so to interrupt there, but there's never been an easier time for us to be able to make money. If we just think about where we are right now in terms of a timeline, we're in a situation right now where most people have knowledge and expertise and interests and hobbies, which actually very easily you can help other people with. So you can pick something you enjoy and you're passionate about and share that knowledge and turn that into something, be a side hustle or something that earns some money for you. It's just understanding the basics of what you can really turn into a business that actually makes some money. And you know, with being able to collect money online, the internet, you know, people working from home, the technology that we have, there's never been an easier time if people really want to do it. I believe this is the easiest time ever to be able to make money just from what's in our head.
So I think there's going to have to be a Ben and Saj part 2 where we focus on the meat of business and how to actually go and make that money, because that would be the next step. Like, well, what do I do to earn more? Well, you said, well, first of all, you've got to get crystal clear on where it's going. Got another podcast lined up this week with someone who's going to really help with that. So maybe there's a Saj and Ben part 2 of this. Just to finish here, Saj, could you just, if there's any way we can help you, what are you looking for right now? If anyone's listening out there, how can we help you in any way?
No, thank you for that, Ben. If anyone's interested in learning about property and property investing, just connect with me online. I'm very easy to find, Saj Hussain. Just Google me on my social media platforms. My YouTube channel is where most of my content tends to go. These days, we're not running any events, you know, with the pandemic. I've no idea when we'll restart those. And if you know somebody that's interested in property, learn about property, just share some of the content or the YouTube content with them. That's enough. I'd really appreciate that.
Perfect. I'll put that information in the bio of this podcast, so that's easy enough to find. Saj, we're so grateful. That's been amazing. Really, really, really helpful. And I'll be in touch again soon, buddy.
And thank you so much.
Thanks.